So I'm probably not going to post, at least in the near future, very consistently for a while. I um I just don't feel like it anymore, so I'm not going to force it. But whenever I feel like sharing something, I think I'll just post it kind of organically. This will be like a little journal that I just kind of keep throughout my life. I think it'll be pretty cool. Today, I woke up. I've been sick the last couple days, and it's been nice to just get this sick because I haven't been working, I haven't been training, and it's given my body time to just like actually really rest and decompress. I think I needed it mentally, probably emotionally and physically as well, just in a bunch of different aspects. I feel like I needed this to just kind of chill out. And I slept really good for the first time in a while. I like slept all the way through the night, woke up feeling better. I don't feel as sick anymore. I'm just congested, but I don't feel as sick. My body feels better. Everything feels better. And I took my dog out for a walk. And oh yeah, there was this bird that made the sound, and it reminded me of the birds in Peru. And I remembered that I had recorded a sound bite for like 2 minutes of birds, and it's super. I love that I did that because it's such a cool thing to play back every once in a while. And I decided to play it back, and it brought me right back to the feelings that I had while I was at that ayahuasca retreat. Just feelings of like, just relaxed joy, but like thrown in with really like humbled growth. Like I didn't, just in a very good place for growing. I don't know how to describe the feeling very well, but it was just a very nice sensation that it brought me back to. And I just started kind of thinking about my trip and thinking about where I was at prior to leaving. And I had spent a time frame of about 3 years just like really putting in work into myself, like exercising with jiu-jitsu, like finding my passion in jiu-jitsu, saving money, working hard, going to therapy, like experimenting with mushrooms, like just really putting in constant work and effort into myself over the span of 3 years. And with all that, before leaving for my trip, what really pushed me to leave for my trip was feeling that something was just off. And I couldn't pin it. Just emotionally, I felt frustrated, sad. I think deep inside I knew I just wanted to go. I felt really drawn to do the ayahuasca. And I had been kind of pushing that aside, making these reasons in my head, like I need more money, I need to save more money, I need to do this, I need to do that. And then one day I realized that I just need to go, regardless of all those circumstances. And when I think about where I was at before leaving for my trip, and then kind of how I've been unfolding after, it's like night and day. It's really interesting. And that's part of the reason why I kind of felt like sharing this is I figured if anyone that is thinking about doing ayahuasca stumbles upon this, it might be a good point of reference to like decide if you really want to go or not right now. And yeah, I think I was lucky because I spent so much time like really putting in a lot of work prior into myself that when I went, there was space inside me for the ayahuasca to kind of do its thing. That's what's so weird about ayahuasca is it feels like I didn't even do much. And then all this love and compassion for others, like that's the most noticeable thing that's come from this experience, along with a bunch of other stuff. But that's something that feels like I'm not even trying to do. I remember one of the things happening was realizing like how we're all connected, how we're all brothers and sisters. Just like I spent a lot of time in the first ceremony just having that lesson beat into my head, just visual after visual of how we're all connected, and then like understandings as well, like happening at the same time, where I'd see something visually and then have this like awe moment, and it was just all about how we were connected. And I think that probably like set the structure for me to then like treat people better, because now that's like instilled into me like a belief where I just feel like, why would I treat anyone other than how I would treat myself, you know? Obviously, I'll still have feelings that pop up, like reactionary feelings to my environment and to people, where I'll feel ways towards people that are negative, you know? I might feel a little annoyed, I might feel a little frustrated. But then I just don't respond to those feelings the way that I used to, where they arise and they're acknowledged, but they're not really acted on. It gets like overridden by this love for others and this patience and understanding. Like I've built that for myself, and I'm very happy about that. And now it's bleeding out into how I treat others. And it's honestly just like freeing. Like I feel like I'm not in a negative headspace. It's just weird. There's so much that like I feel like I can't explain how ayahuasca has changed a lot of who I was and am with words. It just doesn't. There's so much that kind of is more of a feeling. But the way that I've described it to a bunch of my friends and family is it feels like prior to ayahuasca, like you have this fear. I might have talked about this already, but I'm going to share it again. You have this fear of like your worldview, and your worldview kind of encapsulates how you think about your relationship to yourself, your relationship to the world, your relationship to others. Like it's kind of how you interact with everything. And after doing ayahuasca, I should say this first, to expand that sphere in the past, it's felt like I've had to do a very like explorational type of method of expanding it, where I try something and then I kind of discover a little. It's like walking through a cave. Like it's all dark, but I'm walking through it with a torch, and then I map that area out, and then I continue to go, and slowly I'm just like making my way out, and I'm growing this sphere of like my worldview, how I treat myself, how I treat others. And with ayahuasca, what's weird is it, and this is trying to describe that feeling of what it's done. It feels like my worldview is like a sphere, and then it expanded, and it's waiting. It expanded, and there's this space that I feel that it's expanded, but I haven't explored some of the parts yet. But it was kind of somehow explored in a way where I didn't do anything. That might not make much sense to people, but it's a very odd sensation. And I've talked to other people in the group, and I asked them if they felt something kind of similar. And I asked my buddy who's done ayahuasca prior to me, and they've all recognized that feeling. They may describe it a little bit differently, but there's like this phenomena that I think happens when you do ayahuasca. And so I think if anyone is thinking about doing it, just I wouldn't say just do it, because it really depends on your circumstances. Like if you have a bunch of responsibility, if you have family, kids, and you're like tied into responsibility, I'd say you can't just get up and go. But if you're feeling drawn to it, I would just encourage anyone to look into it and to seriously consider it. And if it's something you want, to like do everything you can to make it happen. Because I think it's something that's helped me a bunch and continues to. It's weird. It's like this unfolding process. It's like it planted little seeds in me, and they're just growing, and I'm not doing anything. I am doing stuff. I'm always trying to grow, and I'm intentionally trying to live a good life. So that, I think that's important as well. It's not just like a cure answer. Like you have to be doing a lot of the work yourself, and you have to be dedicated to that process of how it's like this endless process of journey of just growing and learning and unfolding that doesn't ever stop. And that's something that I remember thinking too, is while I was in the ceremony, thinking like, oh, this is just another path. It's not the answer. It's not the solution to your life. But it's another path that you can use, just like you would use therapy as a path, or exercise as a path, or any means of improving yourself. It's just a path. It's not better or worse than other paths, but I found a very useful one that I really resonate with. So yeah, I think the only reason I wanted to talk today is just in case anyone stumbles upon this and they're thinking about doing ayahuasca. I think it's a good idea. Just go to the right retreat. I think there's some retreats that maybe, it's like anything, right? Like in any profession, you have people that are competent and people that are not going to be as competent and might not be in it or doing it for the right reasons. So you have to be really discerning with where you go. And I went to a place that my buddy had gone to prior, and I had heard about it before, and I felt really confident in the shamans there and the people there. And I read all over their website. I felt really good about how they spoke about it. They talked about it being work. This isn't some novel experience. You're not just going to go to trip. Like, you're going to really put in the work, how it's difficult, and just the importance of how it's work and how you're there to grow, not to just like have fun. And I'd say that's the important part. And that there's probably people in the U.S. I live in the U.S., but there's probably people in the U.S. that can do it. But I had so many people tell me, I know a person, and I just felt like if I was gonna go do this really serious psychedelic, that I want to go do it in a place with people that are serious about it, that have been doing it for their entire life. Like the shamans there, and the main one had been doing it since he was a kid. Same with his wife. They had a kid that had been doing it since he was young. Like just a lineage of people that dedicate their life to this. I think, and with the right intentions. They were such good people. I think that's super important to go to find someone that really knows how to work with the plant. Because there's this cool quote that I feel like describes psychedelics really well. I don't have it on me, so I'm gonna butcher it. I think it was from Stanislav Grof or something. Don't know his name. He talked about, this is kind of the end of the quote. It said, psychedelics are tools, and tools can be used adeptly, they can be used ineptly, they can be used to build up, and they can be used to destroy. And I think that kind of like conveys the nuance into psychedelics. It's a powerful tool. You can either use it well or you can use it really poorly. And then there's another aspect to it where it can really build you up when you use it correctly, or it can have some destructive qualities that, you know, can kind of damage you. And so I think that's important to kind of just recognize too, like treating psychedelics as like a sacred tool. Like to have a healthy amount of respect for it when you go use them. And for me personally, there's a healthy amount of fear. I think fear has a weird stigma, but that's kind of what it is. Like I've had experiences with psychedelics where it was a very challenging experience. And I've had that happen a couple times, so I'm in tune with the potential for challenging experiences and how I would prefer that not to happen. If it happens, you just kind of have to deal with it and get through it. But because of those, I have a respect for them now, where I want to do them in the right environment, with the right people, with the right intentions. And I think if you have those lined up, you're pretty set to have a good experience and to grow from it a lot. Even what's funny though is even through the experiences that were really difficult and challenging and not ideal, I still grew from them, which is so funny. And it's probably because there's like this groove of me to like, there's this thing built inside, this like mechanism that I'm always trying to look to that, towards that. So maybe that just helps a lot in those experiences. But like one experience, I was too young. I had done acid with people that I wasn't comfortable with. Got in a car accident, smoked a bunch of keef, which is like THC, like just straight THC at the bottom of grinders. I just had this really challenging like experience where I thought I was going crazy. I stayed up all night. It was just crazy. And that was like one of my first experiences with psychedelics, but it sent me on this like journey of like wanting to feel better then. Like I just suddenly felt insane in my body. Like I was not comfortable with just putting my hands anywhere. Like I felt almost like neurotic. But then that made me realize I wanted to change, you know? And then I started trying to meditate. I started trying to journal. Like it started all of that. And it made me like hyper self-aware in a really uncomfortable way, but that self-awareness is what led to kind of the beginning of me doing this type of stuff. And there was another time, actually the last time I was in Vegas, I live in Vegas now, but the last time I was in Vegas, it was about 4 years ago. Yeah, it was about 4 years ago. It was the day before I was leaving, and I was with some coworkers, and we were going to go to Zion to do some mushrooms. And I had told my buddy about this kind of experience that I had. Now that's irrelevant. I won't go into the details about the whole trip, but essentially we had this chick like busts out cocaine, and then we just do cocaine. And like halfway through the night, I was like, I don't think we should do mushrooms. And my buddy's like, what? Like, he just at the time, I don't know what was up with him, but he really wanted to do them anyway. Thinking back, it was definitely not the time to do them, but I kind of felt pressured into doing them, so I did them anyway. And so essentially we had stayed up all night. So I was up the day before, up all night on cocaine. Then we go to Mount Charleston, just outside of Vegas, and we do mushrooms. And it was just like a really challenging time. I actually had a really beautiful experience, like near the end. Well, in the middle. In the middle, I had a beautiful experience. When I got back, it got really challenging because my buddy was just like not having a good time. And he had gotten into like a verbal altercation with someone that was trying to get him to pay for a camping spot, and my buddy wouldn't pay him. Then he was driving and he was fucked up. It was just like a bad place to be at. And I realized I just had to get out of that situation and get away from them, essentially. I just realized, like, what am I doing? And on my way home, I was just like crying because I was looking at my body, and I realized how much I had like hated myself. It was after a breakup with a chick, and I took on a lot of the responsibility, which was good. It was positive because it gave me control to change who I was in a positive way, but it was tainted with a lot of like self-hatred at the same time. And I was trying to be vegan at the time, and it just wasn't working. I was working a ton. I was just like not taking care of my body. And I was looking at my body and I was seeing it. I was like, holy shit, I am so thinned out. And this is like a physical reflection of the way I view myself. Like, I was starving my physical body emotionally, like with food, I was starving it. Like, I just wasn't taking care of myself. And when I got home, it was a very hard time because I felt like I was at the lowest I'd ever been, you know? And it was really, it made me sad. It made me really, really, really sad. So it's weird because I went and I did psychedelics in a completely unideal situation, not in the right environment, not with the right people, not with the right intention. And I still was able to like grow from it because it made me realize these dark aspects of the way I was viewing myself on a very like subconscious level. And after that, like it took time. Like it took, I would say, years to kind of get my self-love back. But that started coming back along with physically exercising with jiu-jitsu, finding a passion, going to therapy, like doing all this stuff came out of partially, in part, due to that experience. So, I don't know. I love psychedelics. I think I love them, but I feel like I do my best to use them in the right setting at the right time. And that's because I've learned from those experiences, and I'm fortunate enough to not have like been damaged by those experiences psychologically in a way that kind of like fucks you up. Because I have friends that have, I wouldn't say friends, but I've known people that like I went to high school with that kind of like lost their marbles a little bit. And like one of them, I won't say his name, but he got into psychedelics, and he had like this, he had the like positive aspect, like he saw the positive aspect, but I think he didn't realize the potential dangers of just like overusing them, and he was overusing them. And he bought some stuff off the internet that was supposed to be ecstasy or Molly, MDMA, whatever, I don't know what it was. It was supposed to be that, and he actually ended up like having a psychedelic experience, which is not supposed to happen on those drugs. And he kind of just like, something just kind of flipped in his brain, and he was running around town, and it was a small town too, so everyone was like talking like, what's happening to him? He was getting kicked out of stores, he got kicked out of his house, like he was getting 86 from stores, like he just kind of lost his mind for a little bit. I think he was in like some sort of psychosis. And they got him in a psych ward eventually and put him on some meds. And I saw him after the fact, and he was just different. Obviously he was on meds too, but like there was this manic energy that was kind of being like kind of dampened, I think, from his meds. But it was crazy. He was just not the same person. And hopefully that type of damage is reversible, you know, over time. Maybe it heals itself, kind of like how wounds physically heal if you do the right rehabilitation. But yeah, I think all of that is important to like think about when you're thinking about doing psychedelics. Don't be super fearful. I think a lot of people, less and less, but maybe in the older generation, have fear surrounding psychedelics. I think that's partially due to just like culturally they were kind of viewed in a really negative way for a while. I think a lot of people abused them in the 70s too. My dad has brothers and sisters that abused them. And so I think that's one way many people view them. And then there's people on the other side that kind of view them as way too positive. Like there's nothing wrong with them, which I think nothing can be wrong with them, which I think is also kind of naive. So finding that balance right in between the middle of how to view them.